Welcome back, everybody. It's time for another episode of Theater Talk Live. That's right, the show where we talk about the things that are near and dear to your heart. And that's mostly home theater, right? Today, I've got I'm trying to think of the right adjectives to describe these guests. I mean, they are luminaries of the arts in their respective fields. We've got Jim Peterson, and he is the mastermind guru Jedi scion of Lumagen. As many words as I can get to come out of my mouth. And then we have the venerable John Thompson, the kung fu lord of all things video production. Am I right about that? Is that the right way to say it?
I'd say film production. Video production is.
See, that's the difference between you and I. I make videos, you make films.
But I'd say that I learned something today that literally, not to discount other people's interests, because sports is also a very big thing that people want to watch on their big screen. So it's like, I suddenly realized that I need to take that on board.
That's absolutely true. I mean, there are lots of sports fans out there. And then also joining us will be everyone out there in the crowd. So thank you so much for jumping in with us. If you have questions, thoughts, or concerns, raise them up in the comments. Mr. Van Gool has joined us already. And he likes John's Stop the FOMO shirt. I like it too. Nobody likes the missing out. We all love the TVs. It's all good. Now
he's a good guy. Anybody want to send me a free shirt? I'll wear their shirt.
he's a really good guy. We have some more royalty, some more YouTube royalty. We have Easy Home Theater Tech out in the crowd. He's another great guy making content for all of us addicts. But let's get to the topic at hand here. And the big topic of the day is Lumagen, and that's what we're going to focus on. So Jim, we're going to start with you, I think, for some introduction. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about who you are, and then maybe a little bit about what Lumagen is and does.
Okay, so I'm Jim Peterson. I'm the president and founder of Lumagen. I've been doing computer graphics and video design for some 40 years. So I'm up there in age, but just enjoying it. It's basically with my hobby. I wanted a better video processor back in the early 2000s, and I decided I could do that myself, being a crazy engineer. So I started Lumagen. We actually started at the end of 2001. Our first product was in 2003, the Vision series. Then we did the Vision DBI series. Then we did the Radiance series for quite some time, from 2007 to about 2012, 13. 2100 series we did from then till about 2014, 15. And then we introduced the Radiance Pro in 2015. So this product is something that we wanted to give plenty of legs to. So we wanted to design it modularly, so we could go from the 9 gigahertz at the time, which when the 18 gigahertz came out, we were able to switch gears and go to 18 gigahertz. The FPGA, when I chose field programmable gate array, for those of you who don't know it, it's reprogrammable hardware. So what it is like programming your computer, but it's much lower level in gates and very high speed. And I like to say the FPGA is hyper efficient at doing video processing. So we're able to do a lot of stuff. When I chose that FPGA, literally at last moment, I switched from one FPGA to one that was 50% bigger, so that we would have half the room left in the FPGA for all the new features that we didn't know about, like HDR, but we wanted to be able to add later. So we chose to do a very robust commercial grade design, all by Lumagen. So I did all the architecture, I did all the schematics, I did all the board layout by hand, no auto routing, everything was tuned so we could get the very, very best. That has been our mantra for all of Lumagen, and now the Artisan is the final, the latest in that we are doing another handcrafted design. So we try to take up that handcrafted nature of handcrafted architecture, handcrafted design, handcrafted layout, handcrafted case, handcrafted firmware, handcrafted FPGA code. So everything we do, all our algorithms are developed by Lumagen. So I have a great engineer, Patrick Harkin. We work together. I do some of the base. I did the scaling algorithm. I did the dynamic tone mapping algorithm. But then he takes that and runs with it and really makes it sing for like scene detection, and all the tuning of all the scenes. He's gone through for dynamic tone mapping, hundreds and hundreds of scenes where we have to walk, what I like to say is walk the tightrope. We have to make every scene look good without detracting from other scenes. So that is always a very difficult task, and Patrick is up to the job. He has fixed things that we thought we couldn't fix, and a lot of the things we're fixing are honestly bugs in other products that we have to work around, and we actually just report it. So if you look at our website, you'll see we're doing constant revisions, free updates with new features like instant auto aspect, like dynamic tone mapping, improved scaling, special features we're doing. We just added the Seymour screen masking control, which I thought I would do real quick. And in fact, if you want, I'm just going to do just a really short one. The screen behind me basically is Dune, and then it goes to the 240, and then at the end we're going to go to another scene where I believe it's a 1.4 scene, and so the screen is controlling. So we're not going to spend too much time on that, but this is a feature that we've been working with Seymour on to do. We're still going to be doing some new improvements and some other stuff we're thinking about how to make it even better, but I'm just going to go ahead and stop it now, and it will go back to 16:9. I think that's enough of that.
Well, we'll talk about this more in depth, but the really interesting piece with this is that if you have a theater and maybe you don't have like a full home control system, now if you have a Lumagen, you can make these things happen without additional hardware, right? If you've got the screen, you've got the Lumagen, and then you have a source like Kaleidoscape that tells the aspect ratio, you have all the ingredients to make the delicious cake, right?
Well, let me correct one little thing is we do all the scene analysis. So we detect from the video all the aspect ratios. The Kaleidoscape can report them, but we actually deal with a lot more aspect ratios. We deal with 133, 178, 185, 190, 20, 21, 22, 235, 240, 255, and 276. And the demo that if I kept going, we show the creator, which is the 276 movies, which they can do. So we are able to process part of our scene detection, part of our work that we've done on dynamic tone mapping is able to detect and do instant changes for the auto aspect. Most people don't have masking, but if you do, then we can now control it with the Seymour. We'll be looking at other brands as well, but we're first getting it working with Seymour, demoing here today.
That's awesome. Now, before we go any further, I do want to tap the brakes for a second and change lanes. And John has been waiting patiently here. I see him planning. I don't know what he's planning, but he's planning something grandiose for us. So, John, maybe you could tell people a little bit about who you are.
I'm John Thompson. I'm based in London, England. I previously was based in Hollywood, but my career path was weird because I went to Hollywood to make movies, and then when I got there, I was told that we're making all the films back in England, so we need you back in England. So I had to go back. But at least I got to Hollywood first. And I first met Jim years ago because I was looking for some equipment to use in post-production. Well, it's not a secret. We were doing Star Wars Episode 7 at the time, and I was looking at how we could do stuff on set and how we could do stuff basically on the location and also back in the studio and have a consistency. This is before streaming really became the thing it is now for rushes, because we do all the rushes digitally now anyway. And I was looking at scalers, and I had a look at the DVDO, and I wasn't overly impressed with that. I tried about 3 or 4 of them. And somebody suggested, why don't you try Lumagen? And I said, who's Lumagen? They said, oh, this guy in the States. So I sent him an email, and lo and behold, Jim replied. And then the next thing I rang him up, and we were chatting, and I said, okay, can we have a look at one? So we got some Lumagens from him, and we were playing around with them, and it's ever since we've been using them on various different productions as for rushes, screenings, post-production. We use them quite a lot these days with large LG displays. LG now has decided it wants to be the de facto display in post-production, so they're pushing everything into that because Panasonic seems to have slightly dropped the ball on that. And yeah, we did quite a lot of screenings with LG 98 inches using the Lumagen to drive it, and I was very, very pleased with the results. It's better than just plugging it in directly. I've tried everything on the market, and I just found Jim and Lumagen the most responsive and being able to fix what we were trying to do and give us what we wanted. So
That's awesome.
I mean, it's not just I use it. I know quite a lot of very large Hollywood directors. In fact, actually, probably one of the most infamous directors in the world, and famous. He has got 6 Lumagens, I think, including 2 on his yacht.
Have them.
Yeah, well, I mean, the funniest thing was basically something had gone wrong, and it's because one of the people on the yacht had done something very stupid. And I remember they were going to fly me out to the Mediterranean to fix it, but we managed to relay it via telephone to sort it out. But it was quite funny because I could hear another director I've worked with who also has a Lumagen, Marty Scorsese, in the background. It's not supposed to look like that. It's not supposed to look like that. It's like, yeah, okay, we'll sort it. We'll sort it. Don't worry. Because I've got a print at home. It doesn't look anything like my print.
I might have been, the person to say the only way this can be fixed is if I'm on location with you. So send the jet. I'll be at the airport. Let's go. Oh, that's fun. That's cool. So I want to build a bit of a foundation. So for the folks out there that aren't familiar with the feature set of the Lumagen, right? Just for a minute, I'd like to talk through kind of all the foundational pieces, right? So dynamic tone mapping and that kind of stuff. And for people that don't know, the number one question I always get is like, why do I want one of these at all? What does it do in my system? Isn't my projector enough, right? I've got the XYZ processor from Storm or Trinov or whatever, and I've got a great, Christie or blah, 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 whatever, and I spent a lot of money. What does this ingredient bring to the salad?
So I assume you're asking me that.
Yes,
so
sir. Yes,
back
sir.
in the day, we were actually more in the rear screen TV, 1080p, the first TVs like that. And so what we are trying to do is we're trying to refine the image. I mean, back then we were talking to TV manufacturers and their video processor was like a $2 chip. So they wanted to get whatever pixels you had on the screen, but we wanted to refine them. And so what we were doing back then is looking at scaling. Back in 2002, I was working on the scaler, and I call it our no ring scaler. But back then it was you're doing pixel peeping on zone plates and versus refining it, looking at it from your viewing position, which is really the only way to do that. Is for home cinemas, you don't stand with your nose on the screen. You sit and you need to do your evaluation there. That was my first lesson in don't pay attention to zone plate. Don't pay attention to pixel peeping because you will do the wrong thing. And so what we do is we're refining in motion, and we're trying to emphasize that in our marketing now, is our algorithms are all to refine in motion video. We're not really there for photographs. I mean, there's other things you can just work in a workstation. You do that. We are about film. We are about filmmaker mode, which has become a new thing. And just getting it to be studio reference quality is our passion. So we've been working on this since 2002 through generations. And this latest generation, again, it's best scaling for in motion, the dynamic tone mapping, getting that right. It was a big effort to do that. And I remember when we were doing this, and we're in an FPGA, so we're kind of cutting corners on FPGA gates so that we can do it just good enough that no one can see it. John would call me up and says, I see this. And I would say, how can you see that? You're right, but how can you even see that? So John has been I call him golden eyes. I hope he doesn't get embarrassed when I do that. He sees things that no one else can see because he's in the industry. He's looking at this stuff every day. And so when John says there's this issue, I listen and say, we're going to work on that. We're going to do our best. We do iterations. We send them to John. Another guy, Chris Deering, works with us, but we have a number of really good people who help us by evaluating at viewing distance where you need to. And it's much harder to do but it's the only way for us to refine and get our studio reference quality in the home cinema sitting in your seat.
Awesome. Very cool. So there are two main topics that I really like to talk about today, and it's two products that you have. The first one is the Radiance Pro 4140, and that's really kind of a game changer, I think, particularly at the price point, and kind of building in greater access to a much larger home theater enthusiast kind of market, and then kind of on the high, well, on the more high end side for sure, is the newly announced Artisan and all the features there. So let's start with that 4140, and let's talk a little bit about who that product is for and what that product can do for people, right? So kind of the
Okay.
speeds and feeds and that kind of thing.
So up until the 4140 announcement, we have had products from 6,000 to 9,500. The main differentiation being how many inputs and how many outputs. Our high-end 5,000 series actually has de-jitter circuit for audio improvement. All of them have gen lock, so you can have proper lip sync, and you can have each input frame go output once. And so the 4140, we're adding a price point at 5,500, expanding our range from 5,500 to 9,500 in almost $500 increments. So you can choose a processor that fits your needs. The 4140 has all the video features that our highest end product does. The difference being in the electrical design is better in the higher end, lower jitter, lower noise, and it has more inputs. The top of the line has 10 in and 3 outputs. So when you want to do a lot of switching, it gets used in. We have one guy now using it in a studio sound, post-production sound, because we can do gen lock, and he can match the audio to the video precisely. Because we can do gen lock, we have a video delay that's also precise. All of our products can do that. It's just the higher end products do it better. The 4140 is 1 in and 1 out. And we've been asked to do such a product for years, several years now, because they want to use their audio processor, or they're coming out of a matrix switch and they only need 1 input. So, they're saying, why do I pay for 2, 4 or more inputs? And so what we decided to do was to get that price point down. So 55 are going to be a little under $5,000, which was kind of the magic point people needed us to get to. And so what we wanted to do was give this feature set. We don't think it's going to be a huge percentage of our volume, because most of our volume is high-end home theaters where they need multiple inputs. We're doing the switching. They like the audio improvement of the 5,000. We're selling a very large percentage of 5,000 series units because of this audio capability, and it can even improve the video a little bit by reducing the noise, reducing the jitter, reducing the bit error rate that's already really low on the 4,000, but even more. So I have a 140 here. I don't know if you can see it. It's just a small case. And then on the back, it only has 1 input and 1 output. And so that's what it is. It is available today. You can order one today. We usually ship. We have all the parts we need to build any of our models, and we're built to order. So usually allow about a week for us to build it, but you can order it today. It's a very small case, and we can do this because of it's FPGA. All the smarts are in one very expensive FPGA, and so we can do all these features. And this product today is basically a subset of our 4242 4 in 2 out. If it becomes popular, I'll optimize it and make it more cost effective for us, because it's basically taking that design. So it is available today for purchase.
Oh, that's awesome. So, before we jump into other things, one thing that I think is, incumbent on us to talk about is CEDIA, right? And you are currently in Denver at the convention center, in front of a Sound Room 4, I believe it is, which is a huge demo theater there. So you're going to be showing off all of the new goodies at CEDIA. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're showing the 5244. I have a 4140 here that we're not actively demoing. We have a 4446 here, and in the Harman booth, we're at I forget the number, 1020. I forget. I got it wrong. So the Harman booth, we're going to be showing a 5348, our top of the line model. And so we have some active showing here, showing the video quality, using the instant auto aspect as a very predominant feature here. controlling this in SR4. We're controlling the large 4-way masking system for Seymour. We're doing all the dynamic tone mapping. We're doing all the other processing as well. So we are actively showing several of our models here.
That's super cool. Now this new 4140, does that give access or enable the utilization of the LLDV, the Dolby low latency Dolby Vision? Is that part of this product?
Yes, certainly. All our features, like LLDV, like the Seymour masking, like identical as far as algorithms in all our products.
Okay.
So even the Artisan will be based on the Radiance Pro, so it will be a superset, but it will have all these features as well. So yeah, if you buy a 4140, you get all the features, including Genlock, which I think is way under sold here for the accuracy of getting your lip sync. Whereas you don't want, there's already some variance in the projectors. We want our time from input to output, we can hold that within less than a millisecond. So it's very, very accurate for the lip sync. All our products, all our Radiance Pro products do that exact feature. With Genlock, we also have each frame that comes in goes out exactly once. You don't get any frame drops. You don't get any frame doubles. That's showing the film the way the director intended, with exactly the same frame count, no disparity between what we're showing you and what the director wants us to show you. So basically this filmmaker mode is that we're trying to reproduce what they see in the studio when they're doing their post, so that the customer gets exactly the same type of experience.
That's great. So I do want to take this moment to segue over to John for just a minute. And I would really like to understand more of how these products. So I get the concepts of how this is used in a home theater, right? And the benefits there. But John says these are really used in the film production world as well. So how does that work out? I mean, how is this product used in that world?
Well, I mean, you can, like, example, we go back to when I was saying talk about the rushes on episode 7.
So could you define that for people that don't know what a rush is?
Rushes are basically stuff that comes out from the camera, and it's basically unprocessed. It's basically just what was shot. It's effectively what back in the day would have been the negative, and you'd make a rush print from it. So you take the negative and you'd make a rush print. And the reason it's called a rush print because it's done at high speed. There's no real quality control done. It's just done overnight, so you can watch it the next morning. And one of the things that I really liked about the Lumagen was basically I could program the aspect ratio, and I had Samsung at the time make us some special 235 screens that we could use. So basically I could directly address the screen at 235. So I could do a center extract from the rushes and then basically show them 235 directly on the screen. So we could basically almost map it directly to the screen, and it looked really good, and it gave people a good impression of what they'd shot. So that it was rushes are all about getting feedback, so that basically you go, have I got it right? Is that good? Is the performance right? Is everybody happy? And then if they are, then we can move on, because once you've struck the set, you're in trouble, because
you're done.
It costs you a fortune to rebuild it. So everybody wants to be confident that they're moving forward. And I mean, I can apply LUTs as well. So working with the DP as well, he can basically go, okay, I'm not particularly happy with the way it looks at the moment. Can you apply a LUT that emulates film? And then basically I can load a LUT in, which is different than you'd use in home cinema, which will basically then change the characteristics of the picture, and it'll basically look like it's a different kind of, even though it's digitally a different kind of film stock, because we have a whole load of different tools that we can create LUTs that emulate various different classic looks.
Now, are you doing that on the Avid system? Am I saying?
Avid, we use Avid. Avid is used quite extensively for the editing side of it. I mean, the way everything in the TV side, you'd basically use the Avid as the main master, and you go straight into the Avid, and then basically you'd output from the Avid. We just use the Avid for what is under offlines. So we take the EDL from the Avid, and then we do a master conform on the data. So the data, most films these days are shot 6.5K. So we take the 6.5K data, reconform that, and then that's then downsized to 4K. Then that's graded, and then that becomes the master. And then also I should say as well that home theater is actually 3840. We work at 4096. So everything,
the DCI.
Yeah, everything that comes out has to be scaled down by 6.5%. So, I mean, the beauty of the Lumagen is it supports 4096, so we can go straight in. We can play the original rushes at the original data rate, and then basically we can also scale it down and see get a good idea of what the 3840 version will look like.
Right on.
We don't actually use the Lumagen for the final downscale. It'd be wonderful if we could, but there is no real-time processor that does. We use software that does it. Basically, effectively, the scale we do is done on a render farm. So, but looking at the way technology is moving, I was just saying to somebody earlier, I think by 2027, literally almost some of the technology that we're using in the render farm, which is the size of a football pitch, I mean, effectively, you almost be able to get down into one chip because it's moving so quickly.
Yeah, and then you'll be able to see all that stuff just on the fly, right? There's no run the job and let it run. Just let's watch it.
iPads have completely changed how a lot of things are done on set, and it's interesting the ideology between using an iPad and not. And it's interesting that certain filmmakers like Chris Nolan won't use an iPad, and he insists on using an old Casio little portable television he's had since he was about 20. And that is how he likes to see it. Whereas like other people will use an iPad, and a lot of it is about the psychology. And it's interesting that Jim was saying, it's like a lot of people think I'm very critical, which I am very critical, but I'm very critical of everybody. I have to be the bad guy. And it's like, some people think, oh, you're quite harsh on such and such. Which actually, you look at Jim, I'm very harsh on Jim when, it's like, you can't do this, Jim. Because literally I've had directors throw things at me. I mean, literally, if it's not right, they can get very aggressive. They're, you have to tickle them under the chin quite a lot and keep them very happy.
I hear you. That's awesome. Yeah. So, someone was, I can't remember anymore which movie it was, but this is a number of years ago. And they were, I guess, both happy and confounded that the director wanted, and I guess the term is the daily rushes on film print still instead of digital, and they were in the desert somewhere, and they were talking about just the pain that they had to go through on location in the middle of nowhere to get this stuff set up and be able to project it inside of a some kind of tractor truck bed or something.
Oh, we have some beautiful there's a guy called Joe Dunton who's infamously famous in the film industry. If you look, as a man who provided camera equipment, if you look at like the Return of the Jedi, he provided cameras on that. Manhunter, he's the guy. The guy is a legend. He took a NASCAR trailer and turned it into a portable screening room, which is incredible. I mean, we used it on Harry Potter. I think we've used it on quite a few films, but it literally is a luxury little trailer. But it's actually a NASCAR transport trailer. And it's got a projector in there. It's got a screen, air conditioning, mini bar, which is the most important bit.
Absolutely.
The logistics you talk about there, actually, I mean, it's quite easy to do film rushes. Actually, it's easier to do film rushes than digital rushes. But the problem is getting it there. I mean, if you're in the middle of the desert, it's quite easy to project it. It's just actually physically getting there. On episode 7. We used Photocam in LA to do the rushes for that, and that was all done on film. JJ and Dan Mindell absolutely adore film and love it. I've done a number of films with both of them, and Dan Mindell is one of the best DPs I've worked with that's working today. I mean, he came from an old school. He worked with an Australian cinematographer. New Zealand cinematographer, I think.
Oh, don't mix those up.
I'm called Michael Saracen, who was absolute legend, who I first worked with on Harry Potter 3. But we had them done, and actually Photocam, we did the best thing. So we were actually prepared to wait 24 hours for the physical print to come back. We had data rushes come back. which we could transport across, which back in that day we didn't actually stream them. I actually burnt them onto a Blu-ray, and that's where the Lumagen comes into it. Whereas now we would have just gone straight into the Lumagen via a streaming box and just, literally just, anything Apple TV or anything that will play back a decent file.
Right.
Yeah, we are the sort of the innovators of using anything that we can get our hands on. I mean, we try and look at. It's interesting. There's lots of professional equipment. There's some really nice, really high-end equipment, but actually, a lot of the time, we'll just buy consumer-grade stuff and just see how we can repurpose it, because it works. It works so well, and it's cheap because if it falls out of a helicopter, a friend of mine who did the World War Z, he got Apple repaired his laptop for free because he took it into the Apple store and they said, "What the hell's happened to this?" He said, "Oh, it fell out of a helicopter on World War Z." And they went, "Okay, well, we'll fix it for you, no problem."
Yeah, keep using it on your productions. That's cool. So I want to shift back up to Jim, and this is a Giles question. So this is for me kind of thinking in my new world order of home theater and cinema, and what the future looks like for designing and building rooms and that kind of thing. So one of the things that I anticipate seeing a lot more of are LED video walls in interesting aspect ratios like 24:9 kind of stuff. So how can the Lumagen product work in tandem with this screen? It's displaying the pixel, so you don't have a projector, it's the screen that's actually doing it. How does that, is the Lumagen able to help fit maybe like a 276 movie onto a 24:9 LED wall and get the pixels right? Would that be a use case?
Yeah, so certainly we do all the aspect ratio control. We give you a lot of flexibility. We have a lot of people now using, we have people using 2.1 or 2.0 aspect screens, and they want to fill the screen with all content. So it could be an LED wall, it could be a projector, but they said, okay, I don't mind if I do a little nonlinear stretch for my 178. I don't mind if you stretch vertically 10% and do cropping on my 240 movie. 276 would be quite a push to get that, but on a 2.0 screen, 2.1 screen, so we can do that. We actually have an LED wall manufacturer using the Lumagen and selling a Lumagen with every LED wall that they sell. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say their name, so I'll skip that part. But
when I see you, I want you to tell me so I can look it up. When I see you,
okay, yeah, I can tell you offline. I just don't know if they're going to be okay with me saying it. But so in the projection market, we have a lot of people. I've actually used my friends unknowingly as guinea pigs. I'll stretch a movie 10%, make it wider, make it taller, and after the movie, I'll say, "Hey, did you notice anything? Did it look wrong?" No one has ever noticed, even when I told them I stretched it by 10%. It said, "Oh no, it looked amazing," which it is because it was on an RS4100 JVC through the Lumagen. We're doing the tone mapping, so all the other aspects were right, but it was stretched. So a lot of people are fine with a little bit of stretching, and if you're fine with it, you can fill a screen that's a 2.0 screen, or you can fill more of the screen. And that's what I tend to do is I'll zoom in on a 2.40 movie. If I'm watching it on a TV, I'll zoom in with the Lumagen so that the bars are narrow, and so we can do any of that. But we do instant auto aspect. We can program the Lumagen to say, if the input aspect is 178, the output aspect is 178, even if it's 2.0. We could do that kind of cheating so people can then adapt to their preference of, I have one client who has 3 Lumagens in a home in the Caribbean somewhere, and he uses them from an Apple TV, and all it does is it converts all the content to fit on a 16:9 screen, goes into a big Crestron switch, and all their TVs, all their projectors are 16:9, and that was what they wanted. We can do it. I wouldn't like it, but it works quite well.
That's cool. That's cool. So I have to ask John then. So when you hear Jim talk about stretching, nonlinear stretch, whatever it might be, in film world, is that just an abomination that goes against the wishes of the
I close my ears and go la 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 la. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean,
I'm stirring the pot.
Yeah, no,
literally,
I'm with John. I'm a purist. I don't like nonlinear stretch, but we have
when
lots of customers who do like it.
yeah, I mean, basically, going back to my days when I was at DCI, when we came up with the DCI spec, we came up with some very rigid ideas. So a DCI cinema system is not allowed to have any geometric correction other than optical correction. So you can't warp or distort the picture using electronics. It has to be purely optical. That basically also makes people put projectors in the right place. Because a lot of the time it's because they put the projector in the wrong place. It's like, well, you should have thought about this. Also, you know, we things like non-linear is completely a no-no. I mean, literally, our job back then at DCI was to basically take what has been made, to put it on the screen exactly as it was made, not to alter it in any ways, to give us as faithful reproduction as possible. I mean, that's one of the reasons we used wavelet JPEG 2000, because it actually, when it degrades JPEG 2000, it doesn't block, it actually goes out of focus. So it just goes soft.
Interesting.
That was one of the reasons for choosing it, is it literally, you get no blocking artifacts, you just get a soft picture, which was considered to be a lot more aesthetically pleasing than actually seeing blocks. You know, that I think was one of the more interesting things. And also, I still think actually we could have done it a different way, but also in the DCI's world, everything has to be frame based. So there's no time-based compression, so such as like MPEG would do, which would compress it into a GOP, which would basically, you know, take a group of pictures, and you basically no longer have a frame. You just basically have a keyframe, and then all the changes in DCI world, everything has to be frame-based. There is no temporal compression going on in the whole thing, which means that DCPs are actually probably slightly bigger than they need to be. But you know, it's the way of doing it, and it maintains the actual complete cadence of the film. So you're never going to get a drop frame.
Makes sense.
So yeah, purism is one thing, but as I say, when you're in your home, you can do what you want. I mean, we try and advise people to show films the best way they can, but you know, if they want to do what they want to do in the house, that's up to them. I mean, you know, it's like you get a really good cup of coffee and people put sugar in it.
Guilty. Actually, my favorite is just a bunch of milk. So, you know, people say that add a little bit of coffee to my milk, and that is unfortunately true for me. So let's talk about the next big thing, and that is going to be the brand new Artisan Beast box. I mean, we're talking 8K, right?
Yes.
Let's talk. What's going to be new? What are the new features that come out in this new? Would you call this a new generation of box?
It is certainly a new generation in that we had our Radiants, which were 1080p 60, and then we had a completely new design, including a much larger FPGA, so that we could do our deinterlacing and all our features for the Radiance Pro for 4K. But 4K chips don't do 8K, and 4K FPGA sizes need to be much larger. For example, the FPGA we're using has almost 6 times the multiply accumulate capability of the current generation. For 8K, you need 4 times. So we have a little bit of play there, but it is a completely new design. But a lot of the software, a lot of the FPGA code will be easily adaptable. And then we're going to be adding 444 from 422. That's for gaming. That's not for video. You don't really need 444 for video, but for gaming, where they're creating RGB in real time at 120 hertz, often at 2K scaled up, and they send it as 4K. But that is what we want to support. That's what I believe in, is 4K 120 for gamers. I don't really believe
I want to talk about that
content.
Yeah. So
okay, go ahead.
I have to. Yeah, I got to jump in on this one because I've had a lot of people asked me to ask this question, right? So take the world as it exists today. So just say they go buy a big Samsung XYZ TV that is 8K. It'll actually do 8K resolution, and they get an Xbox and they buy an indie game that actually can output 8K resolution. Can we now take this box and sit in that pathway and preserve that full 8K chain kind of from beginning to end all the way through?
So the goal is we will accept 8K, output 8K, and so at 8K 60, we're looking at exactly what we want to do and trying to preserve that. But what they really need is 4K 120, and we can then scale that up to 8K. We're not going to be able to do 8K 120, but we could do 8K 60 output. So I think, see, the issue that people I don't understand is at 4K, at one screen width away, the pixels are already slightly below human perception. I'm not against 8K TVs upscale to 8K because you get a little oversampling, same as oversampling audio. So in 8K TV, 8K projectors, that can make some sense. But consumer content, I don't think really makes sense at 8K. Gaming 4K 120 is really very, very good resolution. And I would say that it would be better to look at taking 4K, scaling it to 8K. And a lot of the times when you create gaming, they're having trouble keeping up with all of the attributes that you want to turn on enabled. So doing a 4K scale to 8K to me would look as good as 8K in and out. So 8K 60, that's in their works. We're looking at exactly how we want to do that. 8K 60 though is 420. It's not 444.
Okay. Right on. And so, for the folks out there that don't know what that means, can you describe the difference between, 420 and 444?
Okay. Yeah. So there's three main formats for consumers. 420, all consumer video movies is 420. That is quarter res chroma. So you have 4 luminance pixels, and then you have, for those 4, you have 1 chroma red, 1 chroma blue. Then you can step up, and Dolby Vision supports this, is 422. So for every 2 luminance pixels, you have 1 chroma red and 1 chroma blue in the encoding. You can actually encode in RGB, but they like to encode in 422 or 420 because then you can do a lot of in the discrete cosine transform. I actually got my fingers dirty in the MPEG-2 world back in 2000 timeframe, working on the MPEG decoders. And if you look at the truncation matrix for MPEG-2, I haven't seen it for H.265, but for MPEG-2, it's like they're throwing out all this high frequency stuff, which plays big in the way we do scaling. If you're throwing out high frequencies, we don't want to optimize for frequencies that we're not going to see. So 420, we scale it up to 444 for output to the display. But we a lot of times will output it as 422 because for 18 gigahertz in 4K world, you can have 12 bits at 422, whereas you did RGB or 444, which is full resolution chroma. 444, you have 1 chroma red, 1 chroma blue for each luminance sample. If you do that, you only get 8 bits at 4. Now that's going to be different with the 8K chips. We're going to be able to do 4K deep color at 4K 60. So there are some advantages to the chips we're using that really apply to 4K, but I don't really, even gaming, I just don't see, if you're sitting a screen width away, there's very little difference between rendering at 4K and rendering at 8K. You may not be able to see any, and that difference may be nullified if you actually scale to 8K because you get that oversampling.
That's I think very apropos. Now,
I was going to say, if you look at how certainly NVIDIA are working these days, a lot of the output from their graphics cards, which uses the compression, a lot of it is a visually lossless compression system, so they can get high frame rates, and a lot of that will derive from the film world. The compression system that NVIDIA is using is basically comes from Kodak originally. But anyway, going back to 8K, just to think that in cinemas we actually do use 8K projection these days. It's not true 8K projection, but most people don't realize this, and it's not to let the cat out of the bag. But if you go to an IMAX screen, a GPO IMAX screen, or a Dolby Cinema twin Dolby Cinema screen, you'll be seeing pseudo 8K because it'll be two 4K projectors that are half pixel offset.
Okay, and then the signal gets split between the two.
Yeah, and it's very cleverly done. And if you go to see a proper Dolby Cinema presentation or an IMAX presentation, you will not see any pixels. I mean, literally, you have to stand at the screen to see them. It's very, very good. But as I said, that to me is a great use of 8K because it's hiding the methodology for what you're getting to project onto the screen. I mean, it's so good now that you can't see any projector artifacts or any issues interacting between the projector and the screen, which in the early days of digital cinema was quite an issue.
That makes sense. So here's one of my completely off-topic questions, and this is for both of you. Favorite commercial screening room or cinema? What's your favorite? If you're going to pick a place to go, which is the one? Where do you want to watch something at?
I'll give that to John.
Well, I've got several. But
He's like, I've got several.
if you happen to be in the UK, then the Dolby screen in the Odeon West End, because basically I sit on them and make sure that it's as perfect as can be, because we use it quite a lot for screenings there. I mean, that's got the latest Dolby Cinema projector. I mean, it's only 2 months old. It's an incredible screen. The sound is exceptional. It's very, very impressive. But I mean, like my favorite screening room of all time, just because of where it is the Stag Theatre at Skywalker Ranch, because I just love watching stuff there. And it's they've still got a Dolby CP200 processor, which basically came out in 1982. Because it's still the best processor for doing 70mm when because they still run film there. So it's still the best processor for running 70mm on, and it sounds incredible in there. I mean, it's an amazing room. It is technically amazing, but it's because of its history, I think.
Outstanding. Awesome. Well, we are getting close to time, so I want to make sure that Jim has opportunity to get whatever final thoughts out that he's interested in getting out to the public. So what's the final collection of thoughts here? Final closing messages for everything. What do you want to get out there?
Well, our passion is studio reference quality. So we are all about getting the absolute best image on the screen in people's homes. So we're doing a custom ground up design. We think it's commercial grade. We do all of the electrical design. We do all of the board layout. We do all of the algorithms. We do all of the FPGA coding. So we have everything controlled under our auspices that we get to do exactly what we want. We are not an off-the-shelf product. We are a custom commercial grade, we believe, and John's using it commercially. So I guess that's a fair statement that we are about the absolute best video in your viewing seat, watching in motion content. So what a big thing that we push a lot is you can't use pixel peeping. If you do, you will make the wrong decisions about your scaling algorithm. So it's much harder, but we do our evaluation at screen width. Now I'll sit halfway to screen width sometimes, just so I can look and see, okay, what am I seeing here? Then I go back to the screen width. So we are about, when you're in your seat watching a video, you don't want to be anywhere else. And I didn't answer that question about my favorite commercial theater because I don't go anymore. We have a JVC RS4100 with a Lumagen. We have the Strato. We use that for our movie server. I'm okay waiting for now a month or 2, 3 months to watch the movie in my home cinema. That is my favorite cinema.
That makes a lot of sense. And I can hear, hundreds of home theater enthusiasts cheering right now. That's the way. That's the one. Cool. All right. So, John, I'll swap this over to you for your final thoughts. Anything that you want people to know about the Lumagen product?
Well, the thing is, it's like the artisan. I mean, Jim's been on this nearly 3 years, so it's not something he just basically rustled up. It's like he's taken him 3 years to design it. I mean, he's been working. I mean, literally, I speak to him, and it's like, I mean, yeah, we're talking thousands of pins, doing the layout, everything, optimizing the traces and the tracks. I mean, you have to remember that Lumagen is a 2.5 person company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's 2.5 people. It is almost like the American dream. It is like, you know, you build it, they will come. It'll be successful. And I mean, you know, that's, I think, one of its advantages of Lumagen is it's a very nimble, bespoke product. I mean, the video processor world is not huge. It's not massive. It's not going to sell like an LG television is. So
Sure.
this is where an FPGAs, I think, in the environment that we're in, you're going to see more and more in the next couple of years, a lot more products, certainly a lot of audio products. I know quite a few high-end home theater processors are switching over to FPGAs. So in the next year, you're going to see them using FPGAs because it future-proofs your device in some respects. Because literally, if you choose a dedicated set of chips, then they can be obsolete in about a year. And also there could be, in the case of Intel these days, there could be major bugs in them that don't work.
Right.
So with an FPGA, if that happens, you just rewrite the code and reflash it, and off you go, and you've got a new version. I think that's one of its strengths, is that literally every time a new firmware comes out for the Lumagen, it's not an update of the firmware. It's actually a brand new product. Technically, if it's a new synthesis of the FPGA, it's a brand new product. Because it's relayed out where all those gates are, everything, and it's redesigned it from scratch. So you're getting, the original Radiance is like 8 years old now, is it, Jim?
We first shipped in 2015 for the Radiance Pro.
Okay, so it's 9 years old, and it's still managing to compete. And I mean, it's an incredible FPGA because it still has the chops to be able to do it. It's that to me, I think is the way forward for bespoke items like this. That you want something that's customable. You want to be able to keep doing. You never know what somebody's going to happen. The spec might suddenly change because suddenly everybody's decided to we can, and then literally Jim can adapt it. You don't have to buy new hardware to do it.
Awesome.
I mean, yeah. So I'm being very impressed with them. I mean, their responsiveness, their I'm probably their harshest critic. I do give Jim a hard time and Pat a hard time.
Yep.
But they come through. I mean, they send me FPGAs and I go, no, sorry, it doesn't work. And they go, what's wrong with it? No, it doesn't work. So I'm sorry, I've tested it, it doesn't pass. Yeah, you can't put that out. And then he'll come back with another one the next day. It's like, yeah, okay, you've knocked it out of the park now. It's incredible. Right, you've done it.
That's super cool. That's awesome. Well, gentlemen, I think we're going to go ahead and round up our time now. I want to extend my thanks and the thanks from everyone else watching for taking the time out, particularly for Jim, who is in the throes of CEDIA right now set up. So thank you so much. And then John, all the way from across the pond, I appreciate you coming on at what are odd hours for you, but I guess not odd hours. It's just normal kind of stuff for you over there.
Well, I work in the 51st state, so
I hear you. Now we are going to have a little additional content here. So we've got Brett behind the camera, and he's going to walk us through some of the demo rooms there at CEDIA so we can kind of see where they are now. So Jim and John, I'm going to say thanks and cut you guys loose, and we're going to swap over to Brett, and we are going to do a little walkabout and see some scenery. So gentlemen, again, thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to let Brett know that he's on because he can't hear anything right now. And
perfect.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Take care, gentlemen. All right, Brett.
Bye.
You're up. So everybody bear with us as we move around and this, that, and the other. And
what's
John,
going on, John?
I'm going to push you out to the green room, and when you're done, you can just close the window. All right. Welcome back.
Hey,
long time no see. It feels like
long time no see. Every day this week, Giles.
That's right.
So obviously we were here yesterday. We were inside Sound Room 4, and all we really had at that point, for the most part, was the front stage, right? Granted, it was 3 beautiful black swans, and what 428. So
Yeah, 428, and then a whole bunch of small 16-inch stools.
that's right, exactly. So there's actually been a ton of progress in here today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect this because my phone's tethered to it since we're just kind of outside in the in the general convention center, and then I'm going to redial right back in with my cell phone.
Okay.
And that way I can actually walk around, and I'm going to walk you through 2 of our 3 rooms that we've been kind of doing. The third one is actually they're in process of a video calibration. So I don't really want to open the doors and let the light in from that perspective. So give me just a minute, and I'm going to disconnect this, and I will log right back in.
Sounds great.
Great.
All right. So while Brett's doing that, I can say hi to everybody. So a bunch of people here. We got Double A and Easy Home Theater Tech was here earlier, maybe still here. We got Van Gool and Fun Waste of Time has joined. Always great to have you on the show. Benny is here with us as well. Don jumped in for a while there, maybe still there. We got a number of people watching right now. If you have questions or any requests, please let us know. I will be at CEDIA starting tomorrow afternoon. Although a lot of my time is going to be eaten up with content creation for companies this time around. So I'm not going to be as able to walk about and just see whatever kind of pops up in front of me. I'll be jumping from booth to booth to booth to booth, which is both good and bad. But I'm happy for that. But if there is anything anyone wants to see, let me know, and I'll do my best to get some short video of that. And from my perspective, I'm super excited to see what's going to be on display for all of the new video wall content or hardware. Right. LG is supposed to be showing something super new and super cool on the large scale LED wall. I can't wait to see what Samsung's got out there. Just Video Walls is going to be there with some huge announcements in the market. Ascendo is going to be maybe debuting. I think it's debuting their new LED wall center channel speaker, right? Because that's one of the big challenges. What do you do when you can't put your speaker behind the screen, right? You can't AT it. Well, they got something for that. They got stuff. TCL for sure is going to be at the show, and I would imagine they're going to have their 115. And I'm actually working on a project with TCL now to install a 98-inch in my theater. Now, when I do my measurements, the 115 in the 16:9 aspect ratio fits. So I'm height challenged in my room, so it would actually work. So hopefully this 98-inch is just the test run with me to make sure that I actually deliver on what I promise. The first test run was a 1-year-old 65-inch project that we did, and now we're doing the 98, and I've got the 98 in the garage. I have to figure out if any of you folks that are in Colorado, if you want to come and help me move a television down to my theater and help me hang it, I'm totally down with that. I could always use a hand, but that's going to be happening soon. And then maybe we'll move into 115 territory. And I'm talking to a number of video wall companies as well that might do some stuff with at that size as well. Although I want to do like a 21:9 aspect in my living room and just have it really, because I don't have a lot of height there either, but I can go really wide with it. Anyway, enough of all that stuff. Brett, you're up.
What's going on? Can you hear me okay, Giles?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, I'm gonna speak up a little bit. Let me know if it's an issue, because it's fairly loud in here. They got all the ACs going and everything else. But I wanted to show you a few things. So I know Jim actually showed that brief Lumagen demo, but this is actually really cool. So I'm going to show it to you guys again right here. Let me go ahead and switch my cameras.
How do you get to the front camera?
No doubt. Hold on here. Let's see. I don't know which back camera I want, but we'll just go back camera. Okay, so you guys can see what's on here. Okay, so what's actually happening this is kind of your movie that you're watching, right?
Yep.
So as you can see in here, you've got a narrower aspect, so there's black bars on the sides. And then that's what you'll actually see right here. Now, as fast as, and it'll just take a second for another clip on here. But as soon as it runs, now, I heard you guys talking. I couldn't hear the actual discussion, but I know it was being mentioned of like Kaleidoscape, because obviously it has some aspect ratio control that allows you to trigger things like a screen mask, right?
Right.
What's different with how that works is that with Kaleidoscape, it can trigger what the movie is, right? But every movie, if you've ever watched, doesn't actually change aspect ratios. The idea is that it's actually showing the same aspect ratio. So what Lumagen's able to do that even a Kaleidoscape can't do is it's doing instantaneous changes. So every time you watch in a movie, so now as you go through here, it's kind of look, but as you have a top, oh, looks like we're gonna move.
Yeah, and that was the creator, which is in that crazy super wide.
Yeah, super wide screen. But you can see as soon as it goes, so now it's not as wide. So now the masking kind of went up a little bit. So
Yep, and
it's
now
really
we're into
cool.
June.
I'll show it to you in person, Giles. But what the Lumagen doing on here is really kind of cool, because it is seeing pixel by pixel what that aspect ratio is, right? So it's reading the aspect in the moment and then automatically triggering for Seymour to be able to change the aspect ratio. And that's something that Kaleidoscape actually can't do. They basically just say, set it and forget it. Hey, this is a
Right.
2:4 movie. We're going to set the aspect ratio. But if all of a sudden you get into an IMAX scene, you're going to still see the black or the white bars at that point, right? So
Sure,
in this
yeah.
case, this is going to go ahead and keep it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you around a little bit here. So
Are
yesterday,
the sofas in yet? Are the sofas in to the movie? Are the movie sofas?
dude, the seats go last.
I want the seats.
I know. Me too. So this is what all these booths look like when they kind of start, right? Just kind of a white box with a little black top on it.
Oh, okay. Whoever that company is, they're behind the times right now.
You could do so much more. And well, these guys. So this is SR4 because it hasn't been wrapped yet. However,
it hasn't been wrapped. Okay.
Bam! Look at that.
Yeah.
So this one got wrapped earlier today. And I actually built the design on this, so I was actually kind of happy with that. So it looks really good. But yeah, you can tell the difference between that, what some people put out last year. There were a couple white box, theaters, and then what you kind of get with that. So it's just a little bit more fun in there. The brands will change depending on the room. So let's say 70% of the people are kind of the same, and then certain things will change depending on what's going on. So let's. They locked the room here, so somebody thought that I should have the code. They probably should have thought better than that.
Oh, now you can get in there.
So this room still has a lot to get done. We got a projector hole in there, but no glass yet. But as we go around, so this is sound room 3. So this is different than sound room 4, which we were in yesterday. So a bit smaller of a room, but again, we can see just a kind of a cool setup in here. So they've got the screen up from Seymour. There's your director speakers right there, Josh.
That's the ones. That's them.
Those are the ones. So, but it looks like they're.
Oh, so they're doing an LCR with.
Yeah, so they're using it in an LCR format here.
I love it.
So while normally on obviously there's a projector screen. If it were a LED wall, they would obviously you'd probably only have one, and it would be pointing the other way. So this is kind of a cool way to be able to do that. So this is cool. This is actually my first time kind of checking this out. So basically using a director backwards to fire as an LCR, and then base reinforcement right down below it, and then obviously a lot of base reinforcement as we go in here. And these, I believe, are where we got the 16s yesterday. So those were 16s. That's a brand new, a newer product that Ascendo's just coming out with. And so those are there. It looks like we've got.
So is it true that in this room there's nothing behind that screen?
No, I hear you. Yeah. So that's literally the wall.
Yeah. So there you go, folks. No AT screen there. Maybe it's an AT screen, but there's no speakers behind it.
Yeah, I'm no. This looks like it's a slightly more reflective screen.
Okay, right on.
So this is going to be. It does not look like an AT. So I'll let if Chris corrects on something on that, and he can let you know which one specifically. I just kind of broke in here. So,
Sure. Yeah.
but yeah, no, there's no AT behind this. They're literally just using outboard speakers on this. And then it looks like we got some side surrounds and some rear surrounds. And then it looks like 4 more subs. So I don't know if that's the final configuration or just where they stopped for the day. But like I said, it's coming along. So usually
That's super
it's
cool.
speakers and heights first, right?
Yeah.
And then the projection screen, and then any risers. I don't know what kind of seating they're putting in this one. And then seats go in last. So let's see here. So that's sound room 3. Turn off the lights. It's like we were never here. Okay, and then okay, now this is sound room 4. So this is where we were yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see those black swans there.
So how much space do they have behind the screen there? Is that about 6 feet, 5 feet or something back there?
No, I'm going to say that is probably 1, 2, that's closer to 3 feet, I'd say.
Okay. All right. Not a ton.
You know, if you look, these black swans are probably 18 to 20 inches, I'm going to guess. And then, you know, a solid 2 feet in between. So maybe just a little over 3 feet, but definitely not any more than, less than 4. So, but we could see the new subwoofers.
Yeah, that's $100,000 a stack right there, by the way. 105.
I know, right? Only 90 grand, Giles.
105. Get it right. That's 220
right.
Or 210 grand.
Only 90 grand. Buy it in a state with no sales tax. But yeah, no, this is a very expensive wall. And will be even more. You can see, I think Evan and Seymour team got the framing done. So they actually build these frames, fully custom for this.
Yep.
And then they'll be able to, we'll probably mount it up tomorrow. And then they can basically start. So the idea, obviously, we got to get everything behind there. And then basically it's good to go. So
what happens if the speaker wire falls out of the speaker once the screen goes up?
Don't say things like that, Josh.
Nightmares ensue.
It's a big deal, right? So obviously we could try to do what we needed to do. You know, when you have a screen like this, they're obviously they're hand laid in.
Yeah.
It's not just a bungee. It's it's actually cut in with the pizza pie cutter.
Yeah, you got the rocker, the white rocker.
Yep. So that'll go in there. So realistically, if that happened, we'd have to open them back up. So usually, what will happen is we'll obviously not calibrate the speakers, but at least put some signal through them.
Yeah, test them
and
first.
make sure that they're working before we especially for that front stage. So we've got some sides. We've got some acoustic panels in here as well. So, like I said, it's even changing sound already. I can hear it. And then these risers just got custom built today. So, no complaints on our side, Giles. They were able to build these in a few hours.
That's awesome.
So when it takes
people to come and redo my room.
Yeah, no doubt. I believe Cam from Christie did these.
Okay, cool.
So, usually like Cam and Evan do a lot of the construction work on this stuff. So like I said, it's major props to them for helping to really drive the mountain of work that goes into the physical pieces of building.
So here's a question. So these rooms get broken down at the end. So what happens to like all these custom risers and stuff? Are they just junked at the end?
So it depends. Realistically, it's hard to ship them back, right?
Yeah.
Now, what they did here, that would be different, typically what we would do, and probably for the same thing. So see how this panel is really only probably 30 inches, 24 to 30. It's got to be more than 24, but less than 36. So, it's a relatively small piece, right? So from that perspective, they can unscrew them, maybe put them back, just stack them together, and obviously
put them on a pallet or something.
Yeah, riser pieces aren't that bad, right? So I don't know. Otherwise, if you happen to be walking around Cedia, ask that sound room or booth. 'Cause
Right.
if you
Yeah.
need a new
I'm
riser,
curious how it works out.
yeah, like I said, usually, realistically, there's always some waste that comes into this kind of stuff
Hmm.
because you're moving stuff around, and obviously, same thing. We saw this at M-Wave at every trade show, really. But sometimes people don't want to have to carry these big old subs back. And so, they'll sell them off. I don't know that who's doing what, in these booths, but I always say it never hurts to ask if you're coming to the show.
Yeah. Get the show
um,
special, right?
Exactly right. Well, and especially if you're local, like somebody like you, right? So if I have to take them, the problem is I don't want to have to hand carry that thing with me. So now by the time I ship it, it's not really much different. But yeah, so like I said, it's kind of cool. Every manufacturer is a little different in what they take and what they take back and what they kind of buy for a one use. And either give to local workers that were out here, or a local shop that's out here is often a good place where things like this will go, because hey, we could take it up to the screening room, or something like that.
Yeah.
And
They can sell it for a discount as a, open
yeah,
box
you
kind of
got it
thing
as
or
an open
something. Yep.
box product, right?
Hmm.
So and they can come in a truck to come pick it up versus me, who's got to go fly back. So at that point, now I'm just shipping it like any other product. So
Gosh, I hope they
yes.
want to leave about 6 of those 28s.
Yeah, no doubt,
No,
no
I'm
doubt.
kidding.
Those look too heavy to ship, so we'll just leave them in.
I wouldn't even have a spot to even put them anywhere. That's the
I know,
sad part.
right? The super cool thing, like I wish I could afford it. I don't think I can drop 30 grand on a
Oh my
sub yet
God.
for
Yeah.
myself. But the beauty of this, and I used to talk with Garani about this a lot in that pose, you know, when you're building your room. So when we talk about like base management and things like that, the reality is you don't always need like your 4 subs, let's say in the corner, right, to kind of
Mhm.
even out those modes and things like that. Now you also have sound pressure levels, so that's there's always 2 pieces with multiple subs. One is evening out the modes, and the second is obviously getting enough sound pressure level to whatever you want to listen to it at.
Yep.
But when you do that with your normal subs, so let's say a 12-inch, 15-inch, 16-inch, so something that's not really killing it in infrasonics,
Right.
but balances the sound, because that's most of what we hear, right? As much as we love infrasonics, again, if a sub can do 20 hertz, it's still doing pretty good. But while you want to keep those, say, in a corner on a sidewall, or 20% in, if you really have the space for it, when you start getting into big subs like this, it doesn't, and infrasonics in general, it doesn't really matter where it goes. So, a lot of the times you don't necessarily need 6 subs, all this size. Obviously, you
Right.
definitely need it here. But for
Oh,
the average
obviously.
person, yeah, but for the average home theater room and things like that, you can probably get away with 4 smaller subs, be it, double 12s, double 12s, 15, 16, whatever you have from that perspective. And then you just need one of these, because
Mhm.
the base wave is so long at that point that it's probably longer than your room, and you don't really have a modal issue. So kind of a cool thing, as I've discussed with some of the some of the bigger acousticians out there, in trying to figure out rooms, is like, hey, I don't need, you don't necessarily need 4 or 6 matching ones of these things, which is prohibitive for a lot of us. But if you could get, again, a solid amount of those 16s that we saw yesterday, drop 4 of those in the corners, that handles most of your bass, gets you to your SPL level, and then you drop one of these in there. And like you said yesterday, I mean, it's nuts. This thing will play single digits, flat, all the way up to 600 hertz.
Yeah, that's the
um,
600 is crazy.
it is.
I'm like, okay, sure, single digits. That's why it's built, but
Sure, sure,
600?
sure. Yeah, yeah. But when you look at these things, I mean, they're just made massive.
Yeah, they are
Like I said,
they are pretty.
yeah, and you could just see, I haven't played with them too much, but yeah, you get that nice carbon look to it, and they're just super strong, super solid. It's truly, yeah. I mean, it's a little hard to see in there. I'll see otherwise if we can get some shots, or maybe on Friday. But when you look in here, it's literally just sandwich layers of carbon.
Yeah.
And so, you've got an ultra thick, rigid shell here, that's just maximizing its output. So really, really cool. The other thing, and I don't know that I had ever touched one before yesterday. Like I've seen them, I've heard them, not for these particularly, but the finish on these Ascendos is amazing. Like it's super smooth. So often, and hey, it's behind a theater wall, so no shame in it that way. If it can drop a cost, a couple bucks, I'm all for that as well. But typically, you kind of get that rough finish on most kind of home theaters.
It's like speaker boxes for people going on tour when they need to protect it.
Yeah. So, you want it a little bit more rough and rugged and all that kind of stuff. And it makes sense. But I love the design of this. Like I said, I'm a big kind of material guy, just like you're a seating guy, and so am I. But a lot of that's because of the materials, right? Like I want to see stuff in a cool design. So the fact, like, this is just, it's ultra smooth. You have these, beautiful, just kind of, cut lines in it. And it just wraps all the way around. It's really well made. I have to say, like I said, I've heard them multiple times, but I don't think I've ever been this up close to them. So,
so the subwoofer philosophy that you just put out there, that's likely what I'm going to end up doing in my room. Something like 4 18s, and then one bigger sub for infrasonics. And I don't think I'll be able to, fit the bill for one of those guys, but I could probably build like a 24-inch, kind of custom cabinet and drop in and use that. So, but that's exactly it. That's the 5 subs. I don't think I'll be able to waveform with it, but I'll do what I can do.
Yeah, they're talking, smaller waveforming systems, right? 3 and 2. So, technically you could do 5. But again, it's all, oh shit, that got dark.
Yeah, really dark.
Oh, and I'm up on a riser. Should have thought about that.
Don't die.
Hold on. See, we use a work light in here, so it's just a little bit different. I can't tell. I think I'm on regular ground now. Okay, there we go. Didn't die. They're gonna find me in the room the next day. So yeah, you can see some cool stuff in here. I think this is Aspire, so more on the lighting side, but they make some really cool ceiling fans up to 120 inches in diameter.
Yeah, they're one of my clients for the show this time, so I'll be filming at Aspire.
Well, you don't have too far to go for most of these places, so it's kind of nice from that perspective. So we've got Dynaudio here. So I haven't been into that booth yet. I think that's got a Storm processor in it as well. We've got the Alcons booth.
I'll be filming for Alcons as well.
Okay, and I think that one is a Trinov. I don't think that one's a Storm. And then we have again, this is the other booth. So this one's got JL, Seymour, Storm, Christie, Matt VR, Panamorph, and PMC. So again, a nice setup in there. I think, like I said, they're doing a video calibration, so I don't want to open that door and
right.
and screw things up in there.
Is Accurus down at the end?
Yes.
So that's another one that I'll be doing as well.
Yep. So Accurus and Aragon in there. Yeah. Joey's old stomping grounds. I saw him post something a moment ago. So
yeah, they're going all out this year for CEDIA. So I'm really happy that they're doing that.
Yeah. A couple years ago, I remember them in the 10x10 booth. So like I said, great products in there. And people are ready to come out here and do this. There's a lot of people out here at the show. And it's a little harder to see in there, but everything's coming along. I bumped into Anthony Gramani just a little bit ago when we were walking through. So he's got some speakers in the JVC booth. That's kind of right over that way. And so he's showing, I think, his Cinema 5. So a smaller system, like literally a 5. I think it's a 5.2.2. So to kind of show the, last year he had the huge system that was out there. And then this year he wants to show, hey, it does work with smaller setups as well.
That's cool. Yeah, the system that you guys did last year was bananas.
Yeah. And it was. And and it was a great system for it. I am willing to put money that this one is probably going to beat it. Just for all those subs that are in there, just for more speakers. It really is kind of a killer setup. So, like I said, I I always love it. Last year was great, but all the brands want to pick up on that. I was busting Olivier's chops in a few videos because last year he made a comment in some of the filming, and so it got out there. So basically he said, "This is going to be the best theater ever. This will be the best theater that ever exists." And I'm like, except for this year. So
it's
like
better
I said,
every year. This is the one.
every year is the year. So no, it's getting done. There were a ton more crates and everything else out here, so everybody is getting their stuff kind of out. What is tomorrow? Tomorrow's Wednesday, so really tomorrow's it.
Yeah, tomorrow's it.
And a few guys are showing some stuff early, and in a few of the other booths and stuff like that. So like I said, I'm sure we'll be pulling a late nighter in here. I'm technically not tied to it, so I don't have much to do with it. I'm just working on some video and some other stuff and kind of helping people like Jim that, I've always said it. I say it in all my stuff, helping the companies that help this industry, and Jim's one of those guys, right? Yesterday, that group of people, all the same thing, and Jim Peterson, I mean, you can tell in the discussions, he's an engineer at heart. He loves his stuff and just wants to make a better picture. So, like I said, I didn't. It was cool for that. So when I heard that he was doing some videos, I said, "Oh, let me help you out here." And again, get a little bit better sound in here, especially with being outside. So
That's super
I think
cool.
that's about it, Giles. So tomorrow we'll see. I'll jump on. I'm just gonna give you a call at home, and we'll.
Yeah, just to show. So I'll. So tomorrow, I'll be. I've got a. Unrelated to CD, I've got a meeting with IBM in the tech center there south of Denver for a lunch thing for AI, and then after that, I'm going to head up and I got to stop by. Well, I don't have to, but I'm going to stop by the Klipsch event that's at 4 p.m.
Sure.
And that's offsite at the Teatro, and then L Acoustics has an event that's going to be down in Centennial at QAV, and I'm going to stop by that for a while. Then I'll be back up there at 7, from 7 to 8, and it's going to be in Sound Room, the one with Perlis and
Trenoff room.
Trenoff, yeah. So the Trenoff room.
Yeah, we just call it the Trenoff room. I don't. Same as these. It's Sound Room 4. Somebody called out the number the other day. I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what number it is. It's just Sound Room 4. Can't miss it. Yeah, no, I can't. Like I said, obviously, you do a little bit of work here and there with people with it, but I always try to be objective. I love what Storm's doing. I bought a processor at M-Wave, so like I said, I'm on board with what they do because they do. You can test so many things, but Dave Pedigo, John Heron. I mean, there's so many great guys over at Trenoff as well. So nothing but love for that group. Same as I help Lumagen here with it, and Joey, who's on there. We're all friends as well. So it's a small industry. So y'all have a little competitive spirit, but wish them well. And I love it because I'm kind of agnostic because I don't work for any of the companies anymore. So
there you go.
Yep.
Love it.
So, but we'll have a ton of content in here. And then, if you don't mind if I plug myself on it. So if you haven't subscribed, you guys, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Facnatics. So FAQNATICS. You can see it on my handle there. And really, I just kind of, talk manufacturing stuff a lot like these guys do, but I take it more from an educational perspective, and try to do some, onboarding and, hey, you just bought this product. How do you program it? And so that's really what I focus on because that's also, what I generally do in real life. So yeah.
Very cool.
So like I said, Giles, if you get some time on it, I was joking about calling you, but happy to talk with you every day this week.
Well, I'm sure I will see you. I'm sure you're going to be there tomorrow night still. So when I come in for Trinov, I'll look around for you.
I'm sure if you walk over this way, that is probably going to be the case. So
cool.
So yeah, and then I think the next day I'll be floating around because they've got Day Discovery, which is kind of a cool program that Technology Designer Magazine puts on. And so they bring in a lot of builders, designers, architects that get to come in, and then we spend a day kind of educating them on technology, why it's important, why when they're building houses, they should be wiring for the latest in lighting and shades and all that kind of stuff. So I find it to be a worthwhile spending my time because we need those relationships, right? Otherwise, we end up all in houses that don't have any of that wired, and then it's more costly and more timely for us to be able to do those things. So
Makes sense.
so I kind of do a couple tours with them, and then chat some stuff. So that's most of Thursday, and then Friday I'll be floating around. But it's going to be a great CDS. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you. And if you need anything, give me a shout. Happy to chat, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Well, take care. Have a good night tonight. And I'll be up there joining everybody tomorrow and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday as well. So.
Sweet. Absolutely, man. Catch you later.
All right. See you, everybody. Take
Bye.
care, everybody on the stream. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all those things. See you in the next one. See ya.